Hi there. We are in our third part of the external environment. We're looking at strategy here. And when we're looking at the external environment, again, we've talked about it in the other two parts. We're going out and looking at the world around us to understand it better, looking for opportunities, common themes, trends going on, whatever. And the one we want to look at here is from Michael Porter, where he came up with his five forces framework here. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to do a screen share here real quick, and we'll come over to our whiteboard and then want to walk through the idea of the five forces. And what Porter talked about is there, as part of competition, we have the level of rivalry across competitors. We also have potential substitute products that we need to consider. There are potentially new entrants into our workspace and our market space. We also look at the leverage and the relationships between suppliers and buyers. And so what Porter asks us to look at is to think about what kind of impact these are having on us as a competitor. So for example, if we look at rivalry, I think of like Coke and Pepsi, or in the case of trucks here in the US, Ford, Chevy, Dodge. They can be stronger competitive natures or weaker competitive natures. So, as an example, if they've got similar products, then competition's stronger because we're trying to differentiate ourselves, versus if there's high differences, then it's a weaker force. And so if demand is getting slower, then all the manufacturers and product creators are fighting for a smaller piece of the pie, and yet rivalry is a weaker force if the demand is stable or increasing. So rivalry can be a positive or negative thing depending on the dynamics that is going on out there. Another one we can look at is the threat of entry. So we look down here at the threat of entry. And again, it's a stronger factor if it's a growing industry, because people are looking at it and saying, hey, there's not a lot of competitors in there, high profit margins. That's really attractive. I want to be part of it as well. So, it can be the growth of the industry going on. It could also be if there's new technologies out there and that can disrupt what's going on, the advantage that the big players have. So new tech can kind of reset the field too, and threat of entry could be a stronger thing. But at the same time, if there's lots of cost to get in, or people have loyalty to specific brands, then that's not as big of a deal, and it's harder to get into it. And so an example I always use in class for loyalty to brands is ask people to think about personal care products that they might use. And you'll find some people look at that and go, you know what? Shampoo is shampoo is shampoo is shampoo. Well, in that case, there's an easier entry to the market because there's a segment that says, I don't care about the different brands. But equally as well, there will be many people who will go, I'm sorry, I use a specific shampoo or hair care product or whatever because of it's for a specific type of, oily or dry hair or curly hair or whatever. So in that case, there's a high loyalty to the brand, and people aren't going to switch. The threat of entry is a weaker thing. Substitute products, I think, you watch what's going on, and if others are growing faster than you are, or they're increasing capacity as an example, or they're making more money or higher profits, that's a big deal too. And so what I think of as an example there is when adhesives came around probably 30, 40 years ago, people would they always thought about mechanical fastening with rivets, and you would weld two pieces of metal together with rivets and you'd have the strength you need. And you do, no question about that. But at the same time, a lot of the anaerobic adhesives from Loctites, by Henkel, and 3M adhesives and other ones out there, they can hit the same strength, tensile wise, or shear strength or whatever, for a better cost and maybe easier install. And the mechanical riveting folks didn't take that serious, and a lot of their industry got replaced by that. Okay. Lastly, then, looking at bargaining power of suppliers and buyers, I just think of what we've gone through in the last couple of years with COVID. If you think of customers versus sellers of cars, it's clearly the suppliers had the greater power when it came to vehicles because there just wasn't as many on the lot at the time, and so the cost of used cars, new vehicles went up, and buyers didn't have much choice, and they were paying over list price. It's swinging the other way where prices are coming down. And so now the buyers are getting some of the greater power because demand is weakened on cars and there's a better supply. I think we saw it also in the US here with eggs. Eggs went crazy in cost just because of some of the flu pandemics that were out there for bird flus and that stuff. And I think we see that in housing as well. Is the housing stock out there, if there's a lot or a little, or interest rates go up and down, then we see the who has the different swings in power between the supplier and buyer. When you look at all these, the big issue is, well, why is this important? Because it tells us again, what's going on out in the marketplace, and depending how competitors and everybody else's reacts to it, we can end up with opportunities or trends going on there as well. Impact wise, then, by understanding all this, we get to not only see the opportunities to move into these different spaces for new business opportunities, but it also gives you and I some insight into what we're going to face when we go into those market spaces. So you take from the beginning where we looked at, what's going on in the market space from a competitor standpoint, how they're going to react, where do they react, and all that, plus these dynamics that we're talking about here, as well as some of the other areas that we've been talking about with the pestle, what's going on politically, economically, so on and so forth. There's enough information out there if we ask enough and do enough research to really start seeing the patterns emerge again on where are people frustrated. Those are business opportunities. Where are people saying, hey, I don't see any solutions here. Those are opportunities, as well as trends and people talking about and looking at, what the world events are impacting us, and then we can prepare for our future there. So this is all part of all that information that we're gathering just to allow ourselves not only to understand the marketplace, but as well identify patterns, trends, and opportunities.